Calvary.
All right, welcome in another edition, a Friday edition of the Week 1 Awesemo Fantasy Football Show on the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel. It is myself, it is Loughy, it is Matt Savoca in the house. All right, so the three of us here are going to get busy, start or sit. It's that time of the year. No more preseason bullshit that we have to sift through. No more looking at 6 or 7 days ahead of Week 1. We are finally here, the final day of the week, but really, when the week starts for us. So we're going to dive in. We'll take all of your start and sits on the chat. And if you're watching a little bit later, maybe catching it on the replay, feel free to leave a start or sit in the bottom because we'll definitely respond on Twitter as well. So let's look at it, gentlemen, here. And of course, we're all brought to you by Underdog, where you can still take full advantage of our promo code Awesemo for a match, free $25 match of your first deposit. And the best place, we'll tell you the only place to be playing big money, big stakes, best ball drafts at Underdog. And again, use our promo code Awesemo. We'll tell you about a bunch of other things going on this channel and beyond, but we got to dive into it. We're here. Matt's in the house too, Loughy. I'm excited about this.
That intro song makes me want to just fight somebody, Eytan. That'll fire you up. I love it.
I'm ready to tear off the tearaway pants. Let's go. Let's go. Start sit.
Yes. I mean, a sick intro song, right? It just gets you going, man. I can't wait. And the full season best ball leagues might be done on Underdog, but they still got a ton of other stuff going on. Be sure to check them out. Use the promo code Awesemo, as Eytan said. But we're happy to have you guys with us. Man, I've been looking forward to this show because we're finally there. And to all of the Antonio Brown is washed crowd, well, you are forgiven. You're absolved of your sins as long as you admit that this dude is the furthest thing from washed right now. Matt, just a couple of old dudes, old heads, cutting it up, tearing it up yesterday on Thursday Night Football to kick off the season. You got to love it.
Yeah, it was awesome to watch and then to look at the numbers, the advanced metrics this morning as I was sipping my coffee, seeing how the game played out. These guys were unbelievably efficient. Now, of course, Gronk caught the touchdowns. It looked like he almost had like a telecommunication with, or not just instant communication on that second one. That was a beautiful touchdown. But Antonio Brown caught a 47-yarder. Both of them had over 1 expected point added per play last night. No one else on the field was able to reach that mark, and it showed. They were awesome. And it was really just incredible passing on both sides.
So let me ask you guys from a standpoint of being kind of stuck in the mud where I am, and this is on the Awesemo C League that I'm in. So probably a bunch of sharps in this league that I can't take advantage of, but maybe other people can. So I'm asking for people in those leagues where you have guys that are taking, first, second, third round that you're asking, how the hell did that even happen? What to do, if anything, with Mike Evans. I mean, seriously, like, can you maneuver? Can I take advantage of somebody who, loses money in 3-card money and shift off Mike Evans right now? What can I do with him?
He's fine, man.
Yes.
When you draft Mike Evans, you have to just go in with the assumption that there are going to be weeks where Evans or Godwin or Brown or Gronk don't get the job done. I mean, it's a high passing volume offense, but they spread the ball around in Tampa Bay. And yesterday just happened to be Gronk and AB's day. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's even in PPR leagues. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I believe since Antonio Brown entered the fold, it's like if you average out the performances, it's 16 PPR points per game, 14 PPR points per game, and 13 PPR points per game. So we're really just bouncing back and forth. Yes, Gronk had that extra fantasy boost from 2 touchdowns. We're not going to project that anytime soon. We've now seen 2 straight 2-touchdown Gronk games. So maybe he's completely back and I just don't know what I'm talking about. But we are with these wide receivers. We're not worried about Mike Evans overall. He's going to have huge days in the future.
Gronk's on the waiver in some leagues. Like if you look at a lot of these leagues with 4 spots on your bench, Gronk is legitimately on the waiver here. The guy is not going to do that every week, but Gronk's going to still have games. And when you're a tight end, you guys know this, the most important thing, other than like a Zach Ertz from a few years ago, where he was just a target monster and a yardage whore. But the biggest thing with tight ends is touchdowns, touchdown equity, red zone targets. And if Gronk is going to continue to get them, you just have to start him in hopes that he's going to continue to see that type of volume in the red zone, even if he's not targeted a ton in between the 20s, which he could be, but might not be. That's the type of tight end that can win you leagues.
You know what else is important, Loughy? It's probably how little OJ Howard played.
Oh, great point.
Yes.
Yeah,
great point.
And the amount of snaps, I think he had three snaps all game. He's clearly not back, or he's not trusted, and that is a boon to Gronkowski going forward.
Big time.
No, especially when you talk about trust factor with a quarterback, if it's a brand new guy or if it's a guy who's been playing for 56 years like Tom Brady. So we'll jump into our own start.
And Eytan, let's not forget that Tom Brady, you even mentioned this, I think, a few days ago. Tom Brady was the one that lobbied to get Antonio Brown to New England and then Antonio Brown to Tampa Bay. So if he has his guys, he has his guys. And we saw it last night.
No, that's a huge point too. And not just because I made it, but absolutely.
I don't even know if it was you, but I'm assuming, I think it was. I think it was on yesterday's betting show with Ben on the Awesemo Odds channel, by the way.
Yeah, we were looking at exactly props in that regard. All right, so I want to get to Derek Just, who hit us up on the super chat. We love it. It's not required, but it's a great way, as Loughy loves to hear me say, get our attention by flashing some change at us. Let's look at this, and this will kind of introduce what we're doing with our own. We each have a couple that we're going to bounce around, some starts, some sits, and then look at ahead to the waiver wire that you can take advantage of before Sunday. Just smash away on that like button. If you just are joining us, make sure you hit that notification bell so you're not missing live shows, and subscribe. We have 3 channels for you to subscribe to, this being one of them, all season-long fantasy football advice you can get. So Derek Just, full PPR and flex. Is it Shark or is it Russell Gage? I happen to love Russell Gage this week, but I'll let you two battle it out.
Go ahead, Matt.
Okay, so with Russell Gage, you're saying this is the wide receiver 2 or the wide receiver 3 on this team. With Chark, I think it's almost like a much worse efficiency-wise version of the Tampa Bay offense. We really don't know which of these 3 wide receivers in Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, and DJ Chark are going to be the number 1. Now, I think I might just bet on the game environment. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, Loughy. The Philly-Atlanta game is really, really intriguing. We really think that has a high probability of hitting the over. Not saying Houston's defense is going to be much improved, but I think there's just more uncertainty with Chark. I'm leaning Gage.
I am too. The shootout potential there is more significant. And Russell Gage is someone last year who, if you actually look at the numbers, was pretty heavily targeted. I believe he was 20th or 21st in targets. He saw quite a bit of it might have been red zone targets that he was 20th in, but he saw a lot of targets. He was, I think, 110 targets on the season, top 20 in red zone targets. I'll go Russell Gage there with the shootout potential. I have very little faith in Philly's corners, but just let me back up for a second, because I think we missed something really important. We need to hit on Ezekiel Elliott from yesterday because people are freaking out. This was the game plan. And I thought it was actually a pretty good game plan. Now, I'm not saying Mike McCarthy can't be blamed for this loss. So can Greg the Lag. I mean, take that name away from him. But Ezekiel Elliott was on the field for 80% of the snaps. Okay. So you might have seen Tony Pollard out there, but sure. But Ezekiel Elliott was out there the large majority of the time. The game plan was, and Matt, if you have a different opinion, I'd love to hear it. But the game plan was to not run against arguably the best defensive front in the league. And when they tried, it didn't work. Now, did I think that they would throw 58 times? No, especially not in a game that was competitive throughout. But they did. This is not going to be as I would take solace in knowing, and Zeke did not look good, but no one looks good against Tampa Bay. I would at least take solace in knowing that Zeke was on the field for most of those snaps and in pass protection. And when you go against teams that aren't nearly as good defensively as Tampa, you're going to see some huge breakout games. You can't throw Zach, or you can't have Dak throw 58, 60 times a game.
Yeah, I think the only thing I might disagree with a little bit there is that I think the game was competitive because they passed so often.
Oh, I agree.
They chose right out of the gate. And so, then we're saying the same exact
I'm just saying
thing
no
here.
one really runs against Tampa, and they kind of went in with that predetermined mindset from the jump. That's all I'm at.
Yeah, and let's not freak out here because we saw Tony Pollard trying to juke some people in the backfield a couple times. If you look at the advanced metrics, they were all terrible. And guess what? As Loughy said, we expected them to be terrible. Minus 0.3 expected points added below expectation for Ezekiel Elliott, minus 0.35 for Tony Pollard on all his rushes. They were the same exact kind of terrible every time they touched the ball. Ezekiel Elliott's snap share was completely fine. And guess what? You want running back ones on teams that are passing it because they're going to end up in the red zone and the end zone much more often. So I think there's plenty of upside here. Don't take those low ball offers for Ezekiel Elliott. Although I did see some really good Ezekiel Elliott trade meme offers this morning. Very good stuff.
Speaking of which, Matt, on the chat, Smooth Criminal Entertainment, and I assume that SCE is trading away Swift, asking this, like trading Swift away for Zeke in a full PPR. I don't know if it would be done the opposite way by any means.
That trade.
That's what I mean.
My God, you make that. Go do that now, right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Literally, if it was your draft last night before the game and someone said, hey, do you want a first round pick for a third round pick? Do you say no?
Yeah. Maybe a fourth round pick on Swift where he started to drop. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's it. That's it. All right, let's run through these here. We have a couple that we're going to give out. We still have some more. See Charlie Rodinson with an interesting one there, Mostert or Tyson in a PPR. So
come on.
We'll get to yours for sure. But let's start, Matt, if you want to start here and go with your starts, your must starts here to Loughy, and then I'll round it out.
Okay, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's a number one overall pick in his first game against the Houston Texans, middling, if not way below the middle defense. As I said yesterday on the matchups show, this is not a team in the Texans that are interested in winning a lot of games. And I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have enough ability around him and showcase enough efficiency as a passer where right off the bat, you're going to be able to play Trevor Lawrence and get 20 plus fantasy points. I think 3 touchdowns is not at all out of the question here. And this is more of a narrative-based point, but I think that if they get into the red zone, they're going to try to open up the playbook and get Trevor Lawrence more reps. We saw a couple of number one picks have trouble specifically in the red zone, even though they were having fine rookie years. Kyler Murray comes to mind. Great rookie year, a lot of trouble in the red zone. I think it would be advantageous for the Jaguars to keep on passing, especially against the Houston Texans' terrible secondary. I'll speed it up a little bit. Deebo Samuel against the Lions. I think this is an easy one here. If you look at the projected targets on Awesemo.com, Samuel is actually slightly ahead of George Kittle in expected targets this week. They're neck and neck, of course. But if you're looking at a player who you got maybe in the 8th round of your fantasy drafts that you can stick into your starting lineup, look no further than Deebo. He's got a great matchup. And I'm not afraid to start Chase Edmonds. Yes, Loughy, you've talked all summer long about this red zone usage, but they do pass to him.
You're a sharp guy. I'm all ears. Whenever I think my points were valid, but I like where you're going with this because we talked about this matchup yesterday, and it's fantastic.
It's the game environment, too, that really gives me that added boost of confidence with the Tennessee Titans on the other side, really consistently bringing points to the board. I expect the Cardinals, who are also capable of scoring when they need to do the same. And I think they're going to have plenty of dump offs and rushing opportunities for Chase Edmonds. Go ahead and put him in your lineup.
Look, when it comes to DFS, because Matt, you and I do a daily fantasy show. Eytan, you're doing daily fantasy shows on our main channel too. Like when it comes to that, you don't have to be a guy I love and season long. It might be somebody that I've faded at their ADP for me to want to play them in a good matchup. And the same thing applies here. There might be a guy in Chase Edmonds who I said, and mind you, this was when he was going in like the 6th round. His ADP slid a lot over the last couple of weeks since you and I last spoke, right? And I always said, nobody's undraftable no one's undraftable, but at a certain ADP, I'll fade him. Well, he slipped far down the board. And besides the point, anybody that even I don't like can have an amazing matchup. And man, Chase Edmonds in a game that could be a monster shootout. Give me that all day long. I'm with you, man. I think this is a great matchup for Chase Edmonds.
All right, go ahead, Loughy. You've got 3 that you're starting as well.
All right. First of all, Charlie, Raheem Mostert or Tyson Williams, I shouldn't even be answering this question.
Well, you've been championing Mostert the whole time here.
I know Charlie watches these shows, right? I know. I know he probably saw Thursday's show with Matt and me, or Monday's show with you and Ben, where I said Raheem Mostert is not only a good start, but a must start this week. I love Raheem Mostert, man. I love him. You have to. So I already talked about him as a must start. I'll hit on my other guys. The first one, and I'll go a little off the board with one of them just to make this interesting in a minute. But Nick Chubb, we had our prep call today, and usually I don't want to throw like first or second rounders in there, but I've had so many people ask me questions about, do I start Nick Chubb or do I start, Myles Gaskin? And it's listen, I think Myles Gaskin's fine, but you drafted Nick Chubb because for a couple of reasons. One, he's phenomenal. Two, they have the best run blocking offensive line in the league. I mean, I don't even know if it's disputable, maybe, but they're definitely top 3. But I'd say number 1. Kansas City,
maybe San Francisco, Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, good call. Yeah, yes. Exactly. Kansas City, their biggest weakness is their defensive line. If this game stays even remotely close, and no one thought yesterday would, and look at that, right? The Browns are a good team with a good defense. Kansas City's going to score, but they're not just going to abandon the run game like the Cowboys did against Tampa, because you can actually exploit Kansas City's run defense. Nick Chubb, you drafted him early for a reason. The guy's a stud. He can break any tackle. He had more broken tackles per rush than anyone in the league last year. All I'm saying is play Nick Chubb. You drafted him for a reason because he's phenomenal. And this matchup is way better than you think. I'll also go Julio Jones. I've been banging the Julio Jones drum all year long, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he gets up, and maybe he ends up being injured and he is hobbled. But wide receiver 3 in the games he played from start to finish last season, he's still great. AJ Brown should be fine, but he's been a little bit hobbled more than anything. And Matt pointed this out. It's all about, for me, it is all about the game environment here. The Tennessee Titans went over 50 points in 13 of 16 games. Ryan Tannehill, in the 26 starts he's made over the last 2 years, has gone 21-4-1 to the over. Okay. Those are nuts numbers. They had 4 games over 70 points, 7 games over 60 total points last year. Julio Jones in a concentrated offense between A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, and Julio himself, with a phenomenal quarterback that doesn't get credit. I love him this week. Get too many questions on Julio. If you drafted him in the 4th round, you're playing him. And last one, a little off the board, Devonta Smith. Phenomenal route runner. Bad secondary for Atlanta. He's going to create separation. So even if Jalen Hurts isn't accurate, you can't miss him when he's getting as open as he is. We've talked about this being a potential legitimate shootout inside the dome. Those 3 guys, start them this week and feel good about it.
Love it. Matt, anything you want to slide in there?
Oh, man, I don't think so, other than all your San Francisco options: Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Raheem Mostert. Get him into your lineup this week. I'm willing to be very wrong, but I really don't think I am, with this Detroit defense being awful and exploitable.
What about Sermon, Matt?
I think Sermon's more of a DFS play. I see a scenario, just like we talked about, where they get ahead early, and so they start using secondary options just because they want to open up the playbook a little more, and it's week 1 and they want to get things going that they just haven't worked on yet. I think Trey Sermon's going to have a role right away. And so, start a talented player in a good matchup. That's fine. I bet you have better running back options.
And Eytan, one more thing to add from Tulsa Dog in chat. He's one of the Awesemo regulars here. We love him.
Oh, sure.
He says right there with you on Chubb, they're going to feed him to keep Mahomes on the bench.
Yep.
You bring up a point in that if you have an efficient run game and you're playing against the Kansas City Chiefs, who can score in 3 or 4 plays, 1 play, doesn't matter, right? They can just score so lightning fast. You walk away to take a piss, you come back, the Browns already have the ball again, and there's 7 points on the board for Cleveland. The best way for Kevin Stefanski and company to avoid that, run with the best run game in the league. So I'm with you there. I'm a Tulsa Dog.
All right, let me throw 3 kind of no-brainer, more, I guess, that kind of view on it for starts. We'll get some chats in here. A bunch of people asking if it's start or sit or just pick 3 in there. And I see one, Keelan Brown, asking about a specific quarterback that I have. We have him ranked pretty low on our start sit rankings on site at Awesemo. I'm looking at him as the 24th ranked quarterback. I just feel like he's flying under the radar, mainly because I'm sure narrative around him. But look, this game against Cincinnati, he's going to be throwing the football a lot with Kirk Cousins. He has a tandem that he can work the ball with down the field. They do have a good offense. A shootout, I'll definitely entertain. If Burrow wants to throw the ball 50 times, I love Cousins throwing the ball 50 times as well. So I would start Kirk Cousins, especially if you're looking at him in correspondence of like him versus Jimmy Garoppolo, although I know we're high on everybody on San Francisco, but Kirk Cousins would be my first one. The second one is a guy that I know Loughy and I have gone back and forth with a lot on this show, and people may think even being in Philadelphia, I'm anti Miles Sanders. He's bulletproof to the game plan on Sunday. He's definitely going to be involved heavily in the passing game. There are a couple of big play capabilities for him to break one with that healthy offensive line between the tackles, as well as take advantage of a couple of great matchups, catching the ball out of the backfield. Yes, Kenny Gainwell is going to get some looks, probably more of a long shot DFS punt. But when I look at just Miles Sanders, the volume will be there. And lastly, I know he's banged up, so keep an eye on him. But Noah Fant should be able to take advantage of everything given to him against this awful Giants defense, especially against the tight end. We can't negate all of the things, the good things that can come from a Teddy Bridgewater in real life that don't transfer over to DFS or season long, without mentioning how comfortable he is throwing to the tight end position. So Fant healthy, and I think even banged up a little bit, should be able to take advantage of that. But looking at maybe a couple of tight ends and trying to determine if it's not a Kelsey or an obvious play, a Waller, then I think definitely Noah Fant has some upside. So those are my three that you guys can feast away on.
First of all, I thought you hated Miles Sanders in this. So that is shocking, but I'm happy to hear it. Second of all, the Giants have a sneaky good run defense. Actually finished top 3 on PFF last year. But as far as their secondary, as far as their pass coverage goes, yeah, I don't necessarily know how good they're going to be. And I think Denver's actually going to have a pretty difficult time running the football against them. So, yeah, I don't have an issue with Noah Fant. Plus, you drafted him as a starter anyway.
Yeah, you kind of took the words out of my mouth, Loughy. They were sneakily just a little bit better on defense than awful, is what I will add. And so, yeah, they actually, over the last 10 weeks of the season, one of the metrics I look at, defensive success rate, that showed the Giants really improving over the course of the second half of the season. In fact, in adjusted fantasy points allowed to the tight end, they actually ended up ranking 8th against tight ends. Now, I still think Fant is a type of player you want to bet on with Teddy Bridgewater. I think that narrative kind of supersedes the defense that they're playing. I think you're going to see red zone looks. Now, Courtland Sutton, assuming he's healthy, he's a monster, but Fant is going to be designed looks, 4 to 6 looks every single game. And you can't say that about a lot of tight ends.
Man, I was scooping up so much Courtland Sutton in drafts this year in best ball early on because he was going a round and a half at one point after Jerry Jeudy. It's like people forgot how good Courtland Sutton was after that ACL. The recency bias with Sutton is so outrageous that
people realize that he was like Julio Jones light at the combine, just a little bit smaller.
Insane athleticism, catch radius, red zone upside. He has all of the makings of an alpha receiver if he stays healthy.
All right, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, smash away. You should be subscribed if you're not already to the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel, our Awesemo Odds channel, of course, the mothership, the Awesemo DFS channel. And we have a couple of people who have already poured in their questions. Let's look at Michael Reyes, and we'll kind of go down in order here. Chenault, this is for the flex. If it's Williams or Chenault, as far as your flex spot, full PPR, Matt, if you want to take it away.
Which Williams we talking about? Javonte or Tyrell?
Javonte, pardon me. Yep, Javonte.
Then it's pretty easy. I'm going to wait and see with Javonte Williams. I'm okay being wrong in week 1, having him on my bench. So it's really that simple for me. I think Melvin Gordon is going to be the workhorse there. So, I'm benching Javonte Williams.
Okay. I assume Loughy.
I think, we don't hear him.
Did you mute yourself? All right, he's fixing it here. Let's, as he works through that.
There we go.
There we go.
Eytan, I was going to say, we just hit 12K subs as well. So
look at that. That's fantastic.
Hey. Appreciate
Thank
you guys.
To everybody. Oh,
we only started this channel our first video on this channel from fantasy football was less than 3 months ago. So that's a big accomplishment.
This growth.
Really appreciate you guys tuning in. And if you're new to the channel, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe. We'll be doing this all year long if you enjoy the content. So appreciate you. Hit that thumbs up as well. What do we got, Eytan?
overcome. Should I start Justin Jackson or AJ Dillon if Eckler's out?
Oh,
Same situation last year.
just leave the spot empty.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Hey, look,
go ahead,
Loughy.
I was just going to say, Jackson's matchup is brutal. It's just truly brutal. Passing game involvement is suspect at best there. And then AJ Dillon, everyone's just assuming that this guy's going to, immediately get red zone carries, and maybe he gets a drive or so, but he's not a third down back. He won't have a Jamal Williams role. He's not a pass catcher. So in all seriousness, I would, and I'm curious to hear where Matt is here, but I go Jackson if Eckler is out. And the only reason for that is I at least anticipate him being the lead back to start the game.
Yeah, and Jackson's an athletic back. We've seen him succeed in these spots before, but I don't think they're going to give the full backfield workload, or certainly anywhere near Eckler's workload to Justin Jackson. I think the floor is there for AJ Dillon, but the matchup is terrible for him too. Yeah. I mean, the New Orleans defense, by some metrics, is the #1 rush defense in the league. They're certainly top 5 in most defensive metrics. Their defensive line is fantastic, and we're talking about a second running back. That said, AJ Dillon is a unique prospect. He's a little, as we said, Julio Jones light is out there in Cortland Sutton. Derrick Henry light is out there in AJ Dillon. That's why he's going higher in fantasy drafts as a so-called handcuff than most other handcuffs. He's going to get some sort of usage, maybe not Jamal Williams. So I think you got to go with Dillon if you're in that predicament.
Ooh, okay.
Let's keep it moving here as Andrew L. Can you rank these 3 wide receivers, half-point PPR here? Laviska, Debo, who we talked about, Shenault we just talked about, and Robbie Anderson, who I think has some sneaky value if you're buying into the revenge narrative of the quarterback.
Debo, was Shenault the first one?
Yes, sir. Shenault, Debo, and Robbie.
Debo, Anderson, Shenault for me.
Yeah. Debo is in the best matchup. Anderson is the one with the highest expected usage, most likely if you include air yards, especially because Debo is used so close to the line of scrimmage. He has an average depth of target of like 3. So he's kind of a gadget player. But then again, so is Laviska Shenault. I think he's the third for me as well. Don't be surprised, though, if Laviska Shenault shows in the first 3 weeks he's going to have one of these 2 touchdown games where he's used all the time. Debo's #1 for me, too.
Connor says Loughy's sleeping on AJ Dillon. I'm thinking of a relationship similar to late 2019. Rashad Penny getting carries to keep the starter healthy. Definitely going to be involved. I'm not saying he's not going to be involved because LaFleur will run series, like specific drives for a certain back. We've seen it before. What I'm saying is that if you anticipate him having a Jamal Williams type role, who was a 40 to 50 target player, you shouldn't be anticipating that because AJ Dillon is more of a bruiser. He's like 6 foot 240 or something. The guy is going to be used probably in some goal line situations. Sure. And he'll get a drive. I don't want to, keep talking about this, but I'm not sleeping on it. What I'm saying is his role is undefined. And if he's a backup who doesn't get third down work, you're hoping for a touchdown. That's all.
Yeah. So Steve Ruiz brings up a question that I think we can also transition into talking about some injuries. Clearly, whatever's going on in Baltimore with their backfield is definitely priority 1 for us. And we'll hit on some other things as well, even though we touched on what's happening, with the Giants. But the question definitely factors into, I think, what a lot of people are dealing with, riding the Gus bus, especially after what happened with J.K. Dobbins and thinking you may be SOL. So he's looking for a flex. Now, he does throw out Shenault or Corey Davis as that option in the full PPR, but a lot of this has to do with just the overall strategy now of pivoting away from Gus, who just is the latest injury there in that backfield.
Yeah.
Matt,
yeah.
Sorry.
It is something where I only care about Lamar Jackson now in that offense is maybe I'll interpret it that way. Is it possible that Jackson, being such an incredible rusher himself, opens up rushing lanes for whoever is behind him? That might be true, but I also don't think that we're going to see a bell cow back emerge from this group. I think it's a long shot, really, to say that any of these players. I mean, Loughy, I know you've been saying that Latavius still has it and that he was good when he was given the usage in New Orleans. That's definitely true, but At this point, it's kind of a stay away option, except for Lamar Jackson. If you're really reeling out there, maybe somebody like a Ty Johnson is on your fantasy waivers. He has a possibility to pop with the New York Jets. But boy, I'm not spending much of a fab budget on these guys. Waiting and seeing.
With you. Yeah. I actually went in my Gus Edwards teams. I went and scooped a couple of them up, but they were free for the taking. This was a situation where the waivers were open. And if that's the case, go for it. But the problem is, and I'll get to this with my sit-ems, the problem is it's a guessing game. It's a carousel, and I'm not very confident.
So let's do that. And we'll keep threading in the injuries, especially as they factor in to some sit-ems. Anybody else who continues to throw us out there with your starter sits, we'll take that in the chat as well. But let's go back to that. Matt, why don't you kick things off here? We'll do 3 each of your top sit-ems.
Well, I'm kind of scared to talk about it because we just got thrown this guy in a pretty tough pick'em with Justin Jackson. Yes. But I'm going to call my sit-ems the don't get cute section. These are players that you probably took in the late single-digit, early double-digit rounds of your fantasy drafts, and you're looking at the matchups or you're looking at the Vegas lines and you're going, oh, maybe I could sneak him in here at flex. I'm saying wait and see unless you're dealing with some sort of injury like Eckler fantasy owners there. So my first is AJ Dillon on this list. And I think that it is one of the situations where, yes, we can guarantee a role, just like Loughy says, but we can almost guarantee it's not Jamal Williams' role, which wasn't even that valuable for fantasy to begin with. Right. So yes, he has fantastic upside. If something were to happen to Aaron Jones, he would probably get this backfield mostly to himself. That's why you drafted him in the round that you did, not to start him week 1, especially against the New Orleans defense, which we just talked about is very good against the run. Also, you've been hearing all these injury concerns out of the New York Giants camp, especially over the last 3 weeks. Even they're keeping kind of quiet on how well Kenny Golladay is doing still. And so I don't want people to get really cute and think that Sterling Shepard is all of a sudden this must start option. Maybe in whole PPR, you get away with something like a 5 to 7 target game where he catches most of those targets because they're closer to the line of scrimmage. But I don't think that's the most likely outcome against the stout Denver Broncos defense. And I have been off of them for most of the offseason, and I'm still going to be off them even as home favorites. The Bills running backs, Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, mainly because Josh Allen is not throwing to his running backs, even though he's throwing quite a bit. And Josh Allen is by far their best goal line back. So unless I see the Bills acting differently by the goal line and throwing to their running backs more, I don't really want a piece of them.
Neither do I at all. It was my same argument with Cam Newton, except on a far less efficient offense, right? Like if Cam Newton's the starter, I'm cool because this guy is the clear goal line back. I'm with you, Matt. There's nothing. I agree with all of them, really. Mine are 2 rookies and then an entire backfield. First off is Michael Carter. I don't think that Michael Carter is going to be a bad running back, but we have to provide context here and a little bit. You got to pull these people out of the sky that have their head in the clouds, right? That are just floating on cloud 9 over Michael Carter being the starter. Ground them, bring them back to planet Earth. Michael Carter was a day 3 pick. Yes, 2019 season at North Carolina was phenomenal. But at the same time, 2020 he struggled. And had he just gone pro, he probably would have been like a day 2 pick. But that's besides the point. Tevin Coleman and even Ty Johnson are 2 guys that are going to be very involved. And if maybe they're co-starters, maybe it's a 3-headed monster, it's still a huge thorn in the side. I shouldn't even say thorn in the side of Michael Carter. Michael Carter might be a thorn in the side of Tevin Coleman for all we know, right? Yeah. Not to mention, we don't know what the back or what the offense efficiency is going to look like. We don't know if Zach Wilson's going to be good. So in week 1, I want nothing to do with Michael Carter in my starting lineups. Would I be shocked if he saw the 3rd most carries behind Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson? No, of course not. So that's a monitor this situation, keep an eye on it, and probably a guy that you could buy very low several weeks into the season with the hopes that he becomes the starter as the season wears on. That approach I like. Starting him early on, not big on it. Same with Javonte Williams. Melvin Gordon gets no respect. I'm not saying he's great, but he finished as a top 15 running back last year. They should use him again. And while Javonte Williams, same school as Michael Carter, by the way, was a trade up. They traded up to get Javonte Williams. They plan on using him, no doubt. Another guy, though, very early in the season against what I would actually consider a sneaky good Giants run defense. Matt rattled off some stats from the last 10 weeks of the year. It's just not a spot that I feel confident in. Maybe it's a two-way split. That's possible, but not a great matchup. I think it's the lowest or one of the lowest totals on the week between these two teams. I'm not really looking to go there with Williams. And the last one is the Ravens backfield. You have to, the good thing about this is when there's if there becomes a clear defined role for one of these guys and they're getting like 12 carries a game in Baltimore, they can block. And just the presence of Lamar Jackson in that backfield is going to open up gaping holes for these running backs to run through. It's no surprise that Dobbins averaged 6 yards per carry last year, and that Gus Edwards has never averaged less than 5 yards per attempt in 3 years with Baltimore. A lot of that has to do with Lamar Jackson. I just don't want to play the guessing game between Le'Veon Bell and Latavius Murray and Tyson Williams. I'll pay really close attention to that. You should too. Pay really close attention, but don't get cute with as Matt would say, don't get cute with these guys in week one unless you have no other options. I'm really trying to stay away from that backfield. It's unfortunate because I loved Gus Edwards.
Yeah, and we might see rushing efficiency from that group, just not. And week one, to bet on it and who that's from, I'm not about that.
Yeah.
All right, let me throw 3 sits out here real quick, and we'll get back to a couple of questions on chat. Couple of good ones, some names that we haven't hit yet. And this is, on that same vein of don't get cute or don't overthink by all means. I don't know what you're expecting from Carson Wentz. And if you drafted him as your second quarterback and maybe you're back and forth because you took quarterbacks super late in your draft and you applied value to other positions, it's just not somebody I would take a shot on. In fact, I would rather take a shot on the next guy in Jameis Winston, who I'm also telling you to sit over Carson Wentz. Yes, he's not going to be as shitty as he was last year, but he sure as hell is not going to be the MVP type player. We saw no real preseason. I just don't know what you're banking on with Carson Wentz in this offense, especially with so many guys around him who have either been hurt or are still hurt. Jameis Winston, I understand that there's going to be some volume there, but it's a tough matchup against Green Bay. And I'm not necessarily sure that you can count on, we talked about Callaway earlier, I'm not necessarily sure that you can count on a lot of people outside of Kamara in that situation. You're down a guy that they have relied upon a lot in Latavius Murray in the past. I just don't think it's worth taking that risk with Winston. And I have Galladay right along with Shepard, except Galladay is the guy that Matt used as the example to stay away from Shepard. So it may be just the fact that Galladay's hurt or the fact that Galladay's like, we don't have any chemistry, but those are pretty big red flags to me to stay away from that guy. So those are my 3 sits.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with this Giants team. Obviously, you're starting Saquon Barkley. If he's out there week one, he's going to get close to his full workload. If he's healthy, he's playing a full workload. But other than that, oh boy, Daniel Jones, Carson Wentz. I'm not really interested in their offenses in general until I see them be better.
Matt, one question for you, because we talked a lot about the Ravens backfield. Is there anybody, if you had to pick one of them up, if you had to pick up Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell, or Tyson Williams, which one of these? And Devontae Freeman's on the practice squad. I found it hilarious that Adam Schefter's like, 3 guys are on this roster that rushed for 1,000 yards. It's like, yeah, okay. And I was a stud in high school. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? If you had to pick one of them up, who would it be?
I think you go with, I can't believe I'm saying this. I think it's Latavius Murray and then Tyson Williams, because you go with the player who was productive in the NFL most recently, as in last year. And then you go with the player who is going to make this roster, sort of a surprise to make the roster, which means he must have surprised somebody with his ability and has familiarity with the offensive system much more than anybody else that's still available to the Ravens. So I'm fine taking $1 to $2 fab swings if you specifically are missing that production from Gus Edwards that you were expecting. But we're not talking about where we're blowing all our fab budget before the season starts on one of these players. There's just too much uncertainty.
All right. Well, let's get back to the chat here. A couple of interesting ones here. Make sure you are subscribed to the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel, all 3, the Awesemo Odds and DFS channel. You've already hit that thumbs up button. Take advantage of our promo code Awesemo at Underdog, and we'll match your first deposit up to $25. That's free money right there. All you need to do is sign up at Underdog if you haven't already and use our promo code Awesemo. So let's look at a couple here. Viet Tran there, Allen Robinson or Darrell Henderson in the flex, Noah Fant or Gesicki as far as the tight end is concerned. Matt, you want to start there?
Yeah, assuming it's full PPR, I think I'm starting Allen Robinson, even against the Los Angeles Rams, where you expect Robinson to match up with Jalen Ramsey plenty. I still think whatever is left of Andy Dalton is going to find a way, is going to realize how open Allen Robinson can get enough times to make this valuable. I have kind of been staying away from the Rams backfield, and maybe there's a little bias in there because Henderson is certainly going to get usage, but I don't think you trade for a former first-round pick in Sony Michel without expecting to have at least a chunk of usage for him. They brought him in weeks ago. He's going to be part of the game plan. It's not a situation like this Ravens backfield where they have no idea what they're doing. If it's full PPR, I'm going Robinson. I'm sticking with it.
I'm with you, by the way. Yeah, I don't know anything to add to that.
Okay, no, that's fine. I didn't want to jump in case you did. So you
good,
just
man.
let me know that.
And I usually do, so I hear you.
That's what was so shocking, is that there wasn't you there. All right, let's look at Cole Pierce. Start Swift or Henderson? Loughy, why don't you start here?
Henderson.
Okay.
It's actually closer than you'd think, though, because Swift has that pass catching upside. And there's no rumors about that. Actually, I'm not gonna get into this dude on Twitter yesterday. Unbelievable, but maybe for another time. Calling the Philadelphia Police Department, asking, just ridiculous. I don't know if you guys saw that, but
yes. I think we all saw it here.
Yeah, it's fucking absurd.
I'm gonna go with Swift. Actually, I think the usage is going to be there. Okay. In a tough matchup. Yes.
I don't think Matt's wrong here. I really don't, honestly.
I'm betting on the talent and the usage, really, and the passing game usage. This is a player that is
garbage time passing game usage.
Yeah. I don't think Jamal Williams is the prototype catch up offense running back. I think he's a spell back more so. So I think they're going to keep Swift in, even if San Francisco's up 2 touchdowns or something like that.
All right, so let's look now, and if it's Curtis Samuel, if it's the Austin Eckler scenario, also Evan Engram, we know as far as what's happening with him specifically, but any more injuries that are factoring in, Loughy, if you want to start kind of where we're approaching this weekend with guys who are banged up to possibly not even playing to all the way ruled out, as we saw with Samuel.
Yeah, when Curtis Samuel, who's out at least 3 weeks on short-term IR, when he was in Carolina last year, he lined up 71% out of the slot. I'm sorry. And with that in mind, yes, you have a different coach. You go from Matt Rule to a coach that he's been with before. But at the same time, you look at this and you say, all right, Adam Humphries, man, 81% in the slot last year. You're like your prototypical slot receiver, right? But I think that Dyami Brown, who we've actually seen lining up in the slot at practice, and a lot of this was after we began to see that Curtis Samuel might not be healthy. I think they know that they might have something in this guy who can be electric, who can really open up the field. And if you want to line him up in the slot, sure, you want to line him up outside as a speed guy that can burn you. I like that as well. So I would say that all in all, Adam Humphrey is a guy that might get you like 5 receptions for 45 yards. But if you're smart and you're Ron Rivera, you're going to get Brown involved everywhere, and you're going to line him up in the slot because he can take off and go, and the yards after catch could be that much more important. I think Brown, if you're someone that has Curtis Samuel in a deep league as a starter, Brown is not a bad substitution at all.
Oh, you're speaking my language, Loughy. So
let's go.
In a dynasty league that we're both in together, I was there in the second round, and I was staring at Dyami Brown or Kadarius Toney, who has 2 rounds of draft capital on Brown. And I took Dyami Brown because I believe that this player is going to be special, especially in year one, possibly with a gunslinger like Ryan Fitzpatrick. This is the player with the highest yards per reception of any day one or day two pick in the NFL draft this year. And he's a rarity in this draft class that was rather small. Devonta Smith was rather, they had small speedsters all over the place, but this is a large physical contested catch player, somebody who is very different in their physical abilities than Terry McLaurin on the other side of the field. I think he complements this offense really, really well. And if I can transition us just to what our next part is here.
Yes, please.
I think another wide receiver that you could look at right away, and I think this is a player that could have a big week one even, is Paris Campbell. I think a little bit differently than Loughy, and that I think that Campbell has a chance to be the wide receiver one in Indianapolis over Michael Pittman. Now, we might just see a wash and they both get like 6 or 7 targets each, and they just try to run the ball down their throat and they lose to Seattle by 5 points. But I think that Paris, so I'm fine taking a free waiver wire pick, putting him at the bottom of my bench, seeing if he gets that big target game that I expect, and then maybe I can get some value out of it in trade or something like that soon down the road.
Did you like how I preemptively added him to the run sheet for you? Because I knew that was coming, and I like it.
Chef's kiss. Yes.
The one thing you and I talked about yesterday on the Awesemo, if you guys aren't playing DFS, by the way, I honestly don't know why. I mean, it is game changing, life changing. It really. When I discovered DFS, my whole life changed. Right. I divorced my wife. I left my kid, and I just.
Well, hold on. We got to play some background music, some infomercial music, like
right.
Right.
Some uplifting music.
I neglected
before and after.
Yeah, I neglected everything. I stopped paying the bills. I didn't pay my taxes for 7 years. All I did was play DFS, and you should be playing it too. Matt and I had the Thursday show. We got strategy shows every single day of the week. We got a 4-hour live stream for FanDuel, DraftKings, whatever it is, every single Sunday. Showdown slate, strategy, like just DFS for every sport, but most importantly, NFL right now. Check out the Awesemo channel and at awesemo.com. Use the promo code DAK, D-A-K, like the quarterback who threw for over 400 yards yesterday. For a single $1, you get our Awesemo Plus Express weekly pass, which is DFS content and all of our season-long in-season content. Anyway, just wanted to get that out of the way. What were we talking about? Oh, Paris Campbell. Carson Wentz loves his slot receivers. That's all I'll say. So I'm with
True.
Matt, give us your other waiver wire guy that you need to pick up now before Sunday. Loughy will give 2, and then we'll get out of here with a couple of bets to keep an eye on, a couple of prop bets to keep an eye on, and pump up that new Awesemo odds channel as well. So, Matt, you've got 1, Loughy's got 2, and then we'll talk some betting.
Yeah, with Jamison Crowder ruled out officially now for Sunday's game against the Panthers, that means I think we're going to see a new look consolidated Jets offense with Corey Davis and Elijah Moore, who, by the way, is at like min price on some of these DFS platforms, getting huge roles right out of the gate. I believe there's only 6 rookies at the skill positions who are listed on their official team depth charts as starters. Moore, of course, is one of them. And I think that we could see a special role for him right out of the gate, because you're going to see this offense looking a lot like a Shanahan offense, where they are using a lot of horizontal plays, a lot of quick outs. And this is where Moore excelled in college. I think he could have a big week 1. And I think everyone's going to be annoyed when they go to their waiver wire next Tuesday and they see that you already have Elijah Moore.
I like it. For me, it's going to be Tevin Coleman. You don't have to like him. I'm not saying you have to like Tevin Coleman. You don't have to like this backfield, but there's no way he should have been going 8 rounds after Michael Carter. And I think when it comes to Coleman, you could probably get, a couple good weeks, a few good weeks out of him for free. If you're desperate and you deal with like a Gus Edwards injury or something. I believe he is one of the perfect additions. Also a good pass catcher, has really excelled as a pass catcher and scores a lot of touchdowns over the years as a pass catcher. Those are the type of things I'm looking for, especially with Zach Wilson's line not being able to protect him. I do believe Tevin Coleman will get a lot of that passing down work, which is super valuable, like Matt talked about with DeAndre Swift. And Terrace Marshall Jr., I don't really know what you're going to get from him, but the kid lit it up in the preseason. He has all of the intangibles. You could put him outside. You could throw him in the slot. He's got that size and speed combo that can blow defenses away. And last year we saw Teddy Bridgewater support 4 players with 1,000+ yards from scrimmage. One of them was Curtis Samuel, who is now in Washington. Could Terrace Marshall fill some type of void that is left there? I absolutely think he can. He shouldn't be on your waiver. Grab him in a deep enough league or a shallow enough league.
Amazing. That is as comprehensive as a look as you'll get on any platform, on any channel of who to attack now on the waiver wire before Sunday. So let's wind down here with a couple of prop bets. Again, everything that you can get the full comprehensive look from a betting standpoint on our Awesemo Odds channel, where you should already be subscribed like you are here on the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel. So let's do it. Rapid fire, 3 apiece on the way out. Matt, you want to take us home with your 3 props, Loughy, and then I'll round things up.
I know it's supposed to be rapid fire, but I just got to give a shout out to the new Awesemo NFL player props tool, which helps this so much. It is like cheating. That's what it feels like. It's incredible, and definitely go check it out on the Awesemo page. I'm going to give you some rush yard overs, some funny rush yard overs for you. Laviska Shenault is definitely getting more than 2 rushes in this game. He's going to have way more than his prop line of 1.5 rush yards. Give it to me. Speaking of Jaguars, James Robinson, 65.6 rush yards against the putrid Houston Texans defense. Give it to me. I'll take him at over 65.6 rush yards. And how about this? Derek Carr averages 8.8 rush yards per game. Meanwhile, the prop line's down at 5.5. Give me that ROI all day on Derek Carr rushing.
I love it.
I love it, man.
As we saw yesterday, some of these prop lines on like backup running backs are insane. Gio Bernard had 8.5 rushing yard prop, hit the under on that. That was Alex and Ben's play. Tony Pollard had a longest run. Longest run of 8.5 yards. I hammered the under on that. Never got close. I think he had like 2 carries for 3 yards or something. And the Awesemo Odds channel is brand new. These guys are pumping out insane stuff every single day of the week. So we're throwing out a couple props here, but if you're really looking for it, if you enjoy sports betting while you're sweating your fantasy teams or your DFS teams every day, go to the Awesemo Odds channel, subscribe, check out all of the live shows, and they take your questions in chat, answer anything you got. And just so much more live betting and all of the VODs on demand stuff is phenomenal. One thing Ben wanted me to mention, and I know we got to go. One thing Ben wanted me to mention, absolutely been printing in college football. I've been tailing his college football picks and smashing. I'm telling you, every single pick he's given, I'm not even joking. I don't know if he's lost. I think he's lost 1 college football bet this season because I'm tailing him.
Houston.
What's up?
It was Houston.
You're right. Absolutely crushing. So here are my bets. Devontae Smith over 45.5 yards. I think that's way too low. Kyle Pitts over 44.5 yards in the same game. As you can see, we think a shootout's coming and we're hitting the over. And then of course, Raheem Mostert minus 125 to score. I don't like one-way bets, but I like this one.
Oh, I like that at the end though. And I have an anytime TD I'm going to throw in here. Let me just give you 3 to think about on the way out. Joe Mixon over 66.5 rushing yards. Everybody expects a shootout. Minnesota's not great, at least last year, against the rush. So I love the fact that Mixon's going to get a lot of carry, some volume there I can bank with. Russell Gage is going to be forgotten about a lot in this game. The Eagles are top heavy when it comes to their secondary, but that's really it. Gage is going to sneak behind. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for him just due to volume to score. So I can get him anytime touchdown at plus 230. And lastly, this is just for Loughy here. Alex Singleton in the final 8 weeks of the season last year barely came off the field. Matt, he was at 100% snaps on 6 out of 7 games or 8 games. And the other 2 was like 98%. For only tackles at 5.5 of the total. I'm sorry. I'm going to smash away on the over for Singleton. He's going to be out there on the field. So there you have it. Those are my 3 as well.
I can't even respond to that because I don't think I've ever bet a defensive bet in my life.
Well, the beauty of it is that on Monday at 2:00 Eastern time, you can just destroy me or just say, I can't believe you hit that.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know the difference.
There you go.
I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't know.
I love it. All right, everybody. Thanks again. At Draftaholic for Matt, at Loughy_D for Dave. And then of course for me at Shander Show on Twitter. Thanks to Chris for producing the show. Make sure you thank him in the chat. Leave us a like if you haven't already. And please subscribe to the channel, the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel, the Awesemo Odds, the Awesemo DFS. Have a great weekend. Hopefully we've provided you enough insight to go out there and win week 1. It's all about winning some money here. So good luck to everybody.